This story really deals with a corrupt culture. This outcry from the land and from the people of what's going on in Sodom and Gomorrah has to deal with a corrupt culture. And the sin is so grievous, the outcry reaches the Lord. Their sin is so grave, so depraved, so wicked, so set against what God would have them do, that God sends investigators to find out, is it time to start from scratch in this region? So we should probably figure out what's going on. What is the sin? What is wrong with this culture? So that we can maybe walk in our lives with more discernment. And what I've found is there's really kind of two typical interpretations that seem to be battling with one another. One of them, I believe, says less than what Scripture says. It's not wrong, but I think it says less. And it's, hey, the sin of Sodom is just homosexuality. But then the other one, I think, says more. It likes to muddy the water and say, well, it's about hospitality. They really just want to see if these guys are spies. They don't really want to do anything bad. And then, well, maybe if it is about sex, then maybe it's about sex with angels. And so this one side says more than what Scripture says. It muddies the water. And this other side, I would say, says less than what Scripture says. And so when we are faced with kind of competing interpretations when we read Scripture, or when we're just at a point in Scripture where it's confusing or it's vague, it can be really difficult. And I'd say the good thing to always do is to let Scripture interpret itself. Is to look and see, hey, has God said something about this in other places of Scripture? Has he mentioned this theme somewhere else or this story somewhere else? And we are fortunate that God has talked about Sodom and other portions of Scripture. And so we want to look at those just so we can have a clear vision of what God says is going on in Sodom.